What if there was a way of automating education like we're automating the industries? So I'm just introducing this concept of EDOps, automating education with AI, and let's see how what I mean by this. So we are aware of this concept of ML ops. I'm sure if you're in the machine learning space, you totally understand how this works. You're collecting data on this side, you're training your models in this cycle, and then eventually you're selecting your models, the ones that work, and eventually you run it into your runtime environment. If you are building responsible AI, you use these explainability, interpretability, reproducibility, etc. And eventually then taking these into the CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration and continuous deployment, and then eventually publishing these. So the ML ops is sort of a pretty well-known space today, and it's expanding dramatically. But what if we could take this concept into the world of education? Now, just sharing a simple example. So if you have ML ops, in this case, you have the data. This is, for example, one of our European Union funded project that we won and are currently concluding this project. And then you have data pre-processing, etc. And then here, this is the center of running these models in production. And at the bottom here, right, you have your ML ops, which is what you use as a toolkit, if you will, to essentially operationalize this pipeline. And similarly, we are starting a new project on carbon sequestration, carbon capture with AI, and we're doing the same things as well. So this is how we do a performance testing and documentation, making sure we're building our models. And this is where we are deploying MLOps toolkit in order to operationalize everything that we do in terms of carbon sequestration. Let's spend a minute or two here to try to sort of, hash out this concept of EdOps. Can we operationalize the education with the use of AI? Is it possible? Now, if you were a learner or a professional living in the real world, this is how your real world looks like. You're dealing with a world that is increasingly global. You're dealing with a world where a lot of automation is happening and humans are slowly working with machines, or the machines are working with humans, whichever way you want to see it, right? You are dealing with a world in which, environment is an important issue, and you want to be conscious about it. Electrification, for example, is one of the ways, and there are many industries. So this is just sort of an example of industries that are out there. And diversity. As the world becomes more global, as the world sort of migrates, and there's a lot of intermigration, metapopulation mixing across the world, we will come to work with people with different cultures and backgrounds. So this is the world we live in. And finally, all that happens in this space. So this is where you are working together as professionals. So these are the real world. And we have different real world targets as compared to the academia. And this is where this huge divide has been, right? Now, so I'm just trying to take this concept of you definitely need to first understand the learners, where they are, because we pluck them out of the real world. You paste them into this education world, and you say, okay, go ahead. It's time for you to learn. So obviously, this is there's a huge difference because you get totally plucked out of this real world. So this is your world where you live in. And you end up in a campus or university or a digital ecosystem, and you're totally disconnected from the rest of the world. And here, if we were to operationalize AI, how would it look? Operationalize education with AI, how would it look like? So if the learning repositories, for instance, should be a reflection of this real world. They should be a reflection of this real world. And the second is, if we can, and we should, because we see that the real world learning differs for people across this world, it has to be personalized. So people should be able to learn different things. and eventually converge towards their own goals, and eventually end up, after having done this exercise, back into this world, which is what their real world is, which is where they go back. So here, you come in. This is the step one. You come in into the step. You have your learning repositories. So we give you, you get some form of a profile. Let's say you get a score of 1.5. It's just, just for the sake of discussion. In terms of your real world readiness, if let's say you're an undergrad student, you haven't worked in the real world. Let's say you get this score of your job's ability to actually secure a job. So this could be one of the examples. What we are building as well inside our Live AI startup is a jobs mapper to make sure that we get the data from various repositories pertaining to the job market, economic environment, the wages, salaries, and all the other skills that allow you to competitively work in the real world. And then you have these two sort of repositories that allow you to test your ability in the real world, and eventually also, provide you customized content. So we are working on tools. We already have developed a tool which we test your capability. We call it a live grader. And then we have a tool called Skills Mapper that eventually sort of tests your ability and provides you all kinds of really interesting ways to give you insight into where exactly do you stand in a skill A. For example, Python is a technical skill, but critical thinking is another skill. Where do you stand? So this, and we give you all kinds of interesting aspects so you can understand where your skills are relevant, or they are decaying, or they are not really up to mark. So this is a tool that we are building as well. This tool we already have built essentially. So this has already been built. We'll be testing these with the university, academia, and also with the industries. And eventually, so you have this in place, and then finally, as a final step is you need to have someone constantly coaching you. Now, your university professor or even at your work, you cannot have your manager, your boss keep chasing you down. Okay, hey, listen, learn this, learn that, because the environment keeps changing as well, right? This is what I'm talking about. This environment is constantly changing. So providing you with learner profiles so that allows a conversational agent which knows exactly what is happening, what you're learning, what your peers are learning as well, which is also aware of where your skills evolution is happening and where it is plateauing, is where you could kind of take this and take advantage of this. So essentially, all this is coming, and there is an inferencing engine that is providing you with the capabilities and giving you all these real-time insights in an automated manner so you can keep learning your skills. And what happens is, in the end of the road, long story short, when you are stepping out of this academia, so your initial score was 1.5, just a hypothetical number, and out of 10, and let's say we were able to put you at a 8.5 out of 10. When you go back to the industry, you're competing with probably the top-notch professionals in the real world. Imagine the time that you spend 3 to 4 years studying at the university. Well, you come out, you have actually dramatically increased your ability to perform in the real world, is where I think operationalizing education is going to make a lot of sense. So I hope with this, you get a rough idea how EDOps could potentially work. That does not necessarily have to mean that professors and teachers and academia folks have to worry about their jobs, but it just simply means that you are able to have an integrated way of reporting back as to how are my skills at the testing level. Am I being tested and know where I am? How is what kind of content am I getting so I can keep enhancing the skills where I am lacking? And eventually, who is helping me constantly so I don't feel alone in my journey? It doesn't matter if I'm sitting in a class. There are many questions you tend to not ask because you want to have a one-on-one conversation. If you haven't found a peer study group or someone you can work with, then it becomes a big challenge. So all these things, by operationalizing and using AI, could have a dramatic impact on how we look at the world of education. So this is just a very high level. I mean, it's a huge topic. We've spent the last close to 9-10 months developing these tools. So we have, the Jobs Mapper tool that is going to be under production. We have started the development of the Skills Mapper. We have completed this Live Grader, and for this Live AI Tutor, we are also sort of going to be using our own homonymous model, which we are developing. That's going to compete with GPT-3 kind of models, using all kinds of data sets that are available, and also using all other essential data sets in order to provide you with a seamless support that gives you, that becomes your buddy in your learning journey. So with this, I hope this gives you guys a bit of an idea on how things work. And I think the next step is to kind of just introduce you very briefly. I'm super excited that we and through Real AI, this is the other startup that I'm a co-founder of. And super excited that we are going to be providing these capabilities to a certain extent, and obviously besides developing the AI curriculum together with the universities. It's really exciting actually, because it's going to be in Budapest, in Hungary. This master's you can follow in Naples, in Italy, the beautiful Italy, where you have your Mount Vesuvius, in Ireland, and obviously in our own beautiful home country called the Netherlands, and the city is Utrecht, which is this is at the HU Utrecht in the Netherlands. So I hope this gives you guys a bit of a perspective of what we're developing, what we're building, and really super excited to take the EDOps and try to see if we can operationalize education, pursue to provide all individuals their own individual learning journey while they proceed and become